Welcome back to the Daily Dribble podcast, guys. As always, I'm your host, Nick Zammit. We're thrilled to be back for the second episode of Season 6. Now, we are just over a week into the NBA 2024-2025 season. So I'm going to go through a little bit of a segment today called It's Only 1 Week, But... And I'm going to pose a couple of situations or scenarios that have arisen across the last week of action that have caught my eye and just kind of delve into them a little bit. It'll make sense shortly when I get into it. But before we do that, though, I just want to share a little bit of love to both Stadium Scene and The Cover. Both those networks continuing to showcase my work here at the Daily Dribble, as well as a whole host of other content creators in and around Australia, New Zealand, the US, and Canada. Very, very appreciative for all their continued hard work and support of me. It really does mean a lot. Likewise to all of you who joined me for the first episode of the new season last week. I really appreciate all your thoughts and feedback. I think you were all just as excited as I was to have basketball back. It was certainly a very, very long off season, but we got there. We got there in one piece. So I certainly appreciate you all tuning in to that one. Okay, let's get into some very quick odds and ends, and it's going to focus primarily on the injury bug that has hit the league early. Now, it started with Dejounte Murray, the new acquisition for the Pelicans there. He suffered a fractured left hand. Now, he's set for an extended spell on the sidelines, played his debut game, posted 14 points, 10 assists, and 8 rebounds in that victory over the Bulls last week. Really looked like the piece that the Pelicans were missing. Fitted in seamlessly, having a tremendous game. But yeah, that's how it goes, isn't it? It was horribly bad luck for both the Pelicans and Murray there. The only, I guess, silver lining is that it's happened early in the season. There's plenty of time for him to get back fit and healthy, integrated into the squad. As there, I still think one of the front runners in the West. It's been a somewhat slow start for the team. But I think once he comes back into the fold, they'll really they'll hit their straps. James Wiseman of the Pacers suffered a torn left Achilles tendon. Now, he's since undergone successful surgery on that one, but it just continues a horrible run of injuries for him. He was the number 2 pick in the 2020 draft, and as I said, has really struggled to actually stay on the court. Across the last couple of regular seasons, since he came in from the draft there, 2020, he's played 39 games, 45 games, 63 games, and now 1 game across those 4 regular seasons. Set to miss the remainder of this year. It's a terribly big blow for him as a player. He's really suffering a lot of setbacks, but he's got a tremendous mindset on him. Already reports have come out that he's just busting his backside to get back onto the court and actually show us what he's capable of. Like we've seen very brief flashes, primarily there with the Warriors, a little bit with Detroit last season. But I dare say we have not seen his best ball yet. So hopefully we can see him back fit and healthy next season. Speedy recovery there to Wiseman. Another young gun that is going to be out for the rest of the season is Utah Jazz young gun Taylor Hendricks. Now, he's going to miss the rest of the season after suffering a fractured right fibula and dislocated ankle. This one happened on Tuesday versus the Mavs. It was a non-contact injury in the third quarter. And I dare say a lot of you, if you follow ESPN or any of those sorts of pages, it was going around quite a lot across social media on Tuesday. And it was... if you get squirmy with things like that, this is probably not one you want to see. He completely folded back on him. His leg was just dangling all over the place. A really, really horrible injury to a guy, that had a pretty solid rookie campaign. He averaged 7.5 points, 4.5 rebounds. He'd moved into the starting lineup, and he'd really, from all reports, put in huge strides to become significantly stronger in the offseason. And that was showing. He looked physically mature now, ready to really assert himself in the league. But, a horrible injury there. Wish him a healthy and speedy recovery. He's going to certainly be a big piece of their plans moving forward as the Jazz look to completely rebuild. He's a guy that they'll certainly want to be a part of that. So, yeah, here's to a speedy recovery there. As I said, one of the more gruesome injuries I've seen in recent times. And finally, Warriors star Steph Curry has suffered a left perennial strain and will be reevaluated on Friday. It's likely to be longer. Now, I actually had to research this one. I wasn't familiar with it, but it's something, it occurs in the tendons that run along the outside of your ankle and foot. Now, it's usually due to overexertion, typically heals within a few weeks if you take conservative treatment to really rest it up, and things of the kind, really just kind of minimize being on it. Certainly hoping that's as long as it is. He started the season phenomenally well, and the Warriors have probably been over so far this season. I know a lot of people, and myself included, probably didn't quite give them the respect they deserve. But yeah, a huge part of their success is having Curry in the wings. Fingers crossed it's only a couple of weeks at absolute max, but certainly not a great start for Steph there. And, I think was it last week or the week prior, he was probably one of my dark horse picks for MVP. Big blow for the Warriors there. Guys, their recaps are very quick odds and ends, primarily focused on injuries that have occurred over the last week or so. You never like to see them. They are unfortunately part of sport, but hopefully not too many more over the next week or two. Before we push ahead, I just want to go to a couple of quick words from my new sponsor, Kamikaze Energy. Hey guys, just Nick here from the Daily Dribble podcast. Just wanted to share a little bit of love to my new sponsor, Kamikaze Energy. Now, I've never really been one for energy drinks. I've never seen the benefit of them. I've never felt the effects. I've never actually thought that they tasted that great. That was until I came across Kamikaze Energy. Now, these guys are providing me a fantastic source of hydration, as well as vitamins B3, B6, and B12, as well as all your key essential amino acids. Now, at the moment, I'm doing quite a bit of prep, another marathon coming up soon. Pounding the pavement, they are ensuring that I'm performing to my physical best. Now, if you want Kamikaze Energy to fuel your next adventure as they are fueling mine, be sure to go to the link in any of my bios, any of my social media channels. Use that code KamiDribbler to check out to get 15% off your next order. Guys, you don't need wings when you have Kamikaze Energy. Go check them out. Okay, guys, this is a little segment I've dubbed It's Only 1 Week, But. Now, I've essentially written down a couple of points that have stood out to me. It's only a week into the season, so read into them what you will. But they're things that have caught my eye across the opening week of action. As always, would love to hear your thoughts, what I got right, what I got wrong. Let me know on all the socials, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, and TikTok. Would love to hear your thoughts. Be sure to subscribe wherever you listen to the show, whether that's watching on YouTube or listening via Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Also, if you are a TikTok user, you might have noticed recently I've been going on TikTok live quite a lot more lately. More often than not, trying to, at the end of each day, do a bit of a recap of all the results, some of the key storylines and performances from the day of action. So if you're not already, be sure to follow the TikTok there. Get to see more of this mug. Okay, the first point that stood out to me was that Buddy Hield needs far more talk for Sixth Man of the Year consideration. Now, across his opening 3 games, he averaged 19 points, 5 rebounds, and 3 assists, whilst going at 52% from 3. Now, that is just incredible. Due to injuries, he had to start versus the Pelicans on Wednesday. In that game, mind you, he had 28 points and went 7 of 11 from 3, 63.5%. But those opening 3 games off the bench, incredible stuff. I certainly think I don't see a world in which he doesn't continue to cook. Probably not quite to that level. I certainly don't expect him to shoot 52% from 3 across the season. But he's a really good chance to be a Sixth Man of the Year winner. All the talk's been on Naz Reid, Dante DiVincenzo, the pair from the Wolves there, Malik Monk. This guy should be right up there with all of them. It's such a weapon having probably the two best three-point shooters in the league at your disposal in Hield and Steph. They're the splash buddies. It's been a seamless fit, I think, into the Bay Area for Buddy. As I said, 19, 5, and 3 off the bench in your opening 3 games. Wowee, that is really setting the pace. And the Warriors look so much more potent, I think, with having a guy like that off the bench. I think it really speaks to the fact they need to get Steph back from that injury that I mentioned a moment ago as soon as possible, and just enable Buddy to come off the bench once again and keep firing. That being said, 28 points, 7 of 11 from 3 when you're starting. Not a bad effort either. So loving what I'm seeing there for Buddy. I think as the season goes on, that chatter will continue to mount. But across the first week, that's certainly something that has stood out to me. Secondly, are the Atlanta Hawks better or worse with Trae as the number 1 guy unopposed? Now, over the last couple of seasons, we've kind of seen him as the 1A and Dejounte Murray as the 1B. That's kind of their type of setup. 2 really strong ball handling players. Trae's undoubtedly one of the most gifted playmakers and scorers in the league. And in terms of box scores, he's had some big games to start the season. Now, in their opening game win versus the Nets, he had 30 points, 5 rebounds, 12 assists, went 14 of 16 from the free throw line. Their second game versus the Hornets in a win there as well, he had 38 points, 8 rebounds, 10 assists, and 4 steals. In a loss versus the Thunder, 24 points, 8 assists, had 10 turnovers though. And then in their loss the other day versus the Wizards, he had 14 points, 8 rebounds, 13 assists, went 2 of 15 from the field, and had 6 turnovers. Now, I find this one really hard. I personally think they are better without Murray. I think he's better as the number 1 guy. When he's handling the ball, he's making things happen. He's, as I said, one of the most gifted playmakers and scorers in the league. He's a dual threat on that front, but he really needs to iron out the turnovers in his game. 16 across 2 games is almost what you'd expect from the team as a whole. I think as the season goes on, there's work to do there. He's going to be the primary ball handler. It's good to see Jalen Johnson starting to build into the season. Each game that goes by, he's looking more competent and capable. If he can kind of take a little bit more of the load off of Trae, I think that would be beneficial. But yeah, that being said, I think having just Trae as that number 1 superstar, I think it's going to bode better for the Hawks than what it did with the Dejounte Murray experiment. Would love to hear your thoughts on that one. Do you think Trae's a player that can lead a team himself and have role players around him, like competent role players? Or do you think he needs that another star, like another Dejounte Murray-esque player? Interesting little thought. The third point that has stood out to me, across it's only 1 week, but this has stood out to me thus far. The bad teams in the league aren't actually going to be that bad this season. Now, teams like Brooklyn, teams like the Wizards, the Portland Trailblazers, Utah, they've all had some really competitive games and moments so far. And as I said, I know it's only a week in, they are bound to drop off. Yet all of them have enough to like about them that they could upset, most teams on any given night. It's really been surprising, some of the results that have played out so far. And I think even in the latter stages of the season, some of these teams that are lower in both conferences down the standings could well spoil other teams' hopes of making the play-in or playoffs. It's really exciting. No game actually feels like it's a given at the moment. There's certainly a lot of intrigue, and I know Utah have had a couple of injuries. They're certainly going to be pushing for the Cooper Flag sweepstakes. Other teams as well, they're going to drop off pretty quickly, I think. But across the first week, I've really enjoyed seeing some of these teams where there were very little expectations. They've performed admirably. So, yeah, really enjoying it. It makes the league such a better product, knowing that all these teams are not going to get blown out night in and night out. Portland in particular, I've really liked what I've seen from them. I think Jeremy Grant had a tremendous start to the season. Simon's playing well. Ayton, Scoot Henderson second year off the bench. He's really stepping up as well. So great to see that too. Okay, and finally, are people, and certainly myself included, have we been higher on the Pacers than what we should be? Now, in their opening game, they beat Detroit 115 to 109. It's a game they really should have lost, I think. A big last quarter there saved them. They then proceeded that to get slapped by the Knicks 123 to 98. A game in which Halliburton had 0 points and went 0 of 8 from the field. They lost in OT against the depleted 76ers 118 to 115. Before then going down to the Magic 119 to 115. Banchero dropping 50 on their head. You know, this opening week, it has not filled me with confidence at all for the Pacers. As I said, they're probably a team I've been a little bit too high on, and many other pundits out there alike. But with how many dangerous teams there are currently in the East, are they still a threat? I really don't know. You know, if you look at the lay of the land at the minute, you've got Boston, you've got I still think the Bucks are competent. You've got Philly once they get Embiid, once they get Paul George back, they're going to be up there. The Knicks, the Cavs, the Magic, the aforementioned Magic, the Heat. You know, you don't want to discredit them out completely. There's a lot of teams there in that logjam at the moment that I think are probably better poised than the Pacers. And it could be jumping to conclusions. It's only a week in, but it's been a very uninspiring week. 1-3 on the week they are. As I said, they could very easily be 0-4. They did not deserve to beat the Pistons. You know, I think they're in for a potentially long year, coming down to earth a little bit. They didn't really make any off-season moves, whereas a lot of other teams around them, you know, made additions. They've gotten better. Whereas the Pacers look a little bit stagnant to start the season. I don't know how far they'll go this season, to be fair. But they've certainly got a lot of work to do. The opening week, it's certainly not been encouraging. Guys, there you have it. There are 4 little points that have stood out to me across the opening week of NBA action for the 2024-2025 season. Would love to hear your thoughts on those. What stood out to you? What did I get right? What did I get wrong? I'm sure I've missed things, but these certainly stood out to me. Just finally, I want to go ahead to my MVP of the week. Now, this is something I'm hopefully have music for this in the next week or two. Getting music rights is a nightmare, so we'll have a nice little intro opener for this segment, hopefully. If you're a long-time listener of the show, it used to be dubbed Hero of the Week. It's now MVP of the Week, essentially shining a spotlight on a player or a team that's really kind of stood out to me across the week. My first MVP of the week is Paolo Banchero of the Orlando Magic. Now, the Magic have had a fantastic week. They've started 3-1 on the season, which is fantastic in itself. Banchero, though, has started the season playing like an MVP candidate. Now, he's averaged 28.5 points, 9.3 rebounds, 6 assists, a block a game, and all whilst doing it at less than 2 turnovers per game. In their win versus the Pacers on Tuesday, he dropped the season's first 50-point game. He had 50 points, 13 rebounds, 9 assists, 1 steal, 2 blocks, and went at 61.5% from the field. An absolutely startling performance there from one of the league's youngest and brightest prospects. He became the second youngest player in NBA history to have a 50, 10, and 5 game. He did it at 21 years old and 351 days. To the surprise of no one, he came in only behind LeBron James, who did it at 20 years and 80 days old. It's absolutely incredible stuff. Incredible start to the season for both the Magic and Banchero. And I think if the Magic can will themselves to a top 4 to 5 seed, Banchero's going to be a real legitimate MVP chance. Keep your eyes peeled on him. Keep your eyes peeled on the Magic. They are must-watch TV at the moment. They're playing a really exciting brand of basketball offensively, whilst also being one of the league's better defense-minded teams. Loving what I'm seeing from him. I don't know, is it maybe because Orlando's not that sexy a team? It's not that sexy a market. They haven't had a lot of success over their history. Is that why Banchero doesn't get talked about with these young stars like Edwards, like Luka, those other big household name players? I'm not sure, but I think over this season, he's going to make a believer out of a lot of people. So Banchero is officially my first MVP of the week. As I said, looking forward to doing this week in and week out, shining the spotlight on these players or teams that have stood out to me. As I said, hopefully have some music in the next couple of weeks. If you know, or if you've got any little music setups, would love for you to reach out. Getting the music rights, it's one of those things that people don't tell you about when you set up a podcast. Getting a hold of it is very tedious, time-consuming, causes a lot of headaches, but we will endeavour to get it done. Guys, appreciate you tuning in and week out. I hope you enjoyed this one, hearing my thoughts on the opening week of action. I'll be back to do it all again next week. I'm sure it's going to be an absolutely barnstorming week of NBA action on and off the court. So be sure to subscribe wherever you listen to the show, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or watching this one on YouTube to get the latest episodes as soon as they drop. I'm going to leave it at that, guys. Till next week, have a fantastic week. Enjoy having basketball back in our lives once again. And I can't wait to speak to you again very soon. Till then, remember, be good or be good at it. See you guys.